Predator tonight. It's a
We're
good day.
live.
And where is the show? Where the people are?
It'll be up here.
Oh, gotcha. Hello, hello. Come on in. Impromptu, man. Like 2 hours notice. Going live right here in November 2025. We're going to have a little bit of chat. A little bit of chat about comic books. Then and now. Talking about some modern stuff. And then we're going to talk about some not so modern stuff. I haven't even told Rachel everything we're talking about.
I don't know what's happening. Oh wait.
It's better if we just
Now
just
we
let
can
it
see
go,
the
just
Oh,
figure
there's
it out
my
as we
BP
go.
Mike. How's it going?
Hey, BP Mike.
Let me do that. Hey. Good evening. Hello.
But before we even get started, I'm Dave. This is my daughter Rachel. Where is it? Where is that thing?
Oh my god.
Yeah. And this is my brother, Uncle Dan. That's right. Everyone, keep going.
Why do you keep clicking it? You only have to click it one time. We don't know how to do anything.
I don't care. All right.
You ever watch that show? I think it's called Bronze and Modern Gods. They have like the
Yeah.
split screen.
Yeah.
Those guys got like high production values. We're like, we just fly here.
Use the free version of StreamYard.
This is a high production. What are you talking about, man?
We have a camera. That works.
This is as good as it gets in our realm. Okay. Here's what we're going to talk about today a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about blind bags, my personal opinion about them, a little bit of history on other marketing devices that comic book companies have used to generate sales of same book. I want to talk about that a little bit. I know there's a lot of enthusiasm right now. That's why I want to talk about it, because I've talked to some people that have bought a great deal of books chasing, right? And then I want to talk a little bit about some other books that just went on auction from the other side of comic collecting, which is pre-Comic Code, 1955, and some of the prices they fetched just being multiples of what they had got in the past, in the recent past even. So one is like the chase, trying to get something for nothing, one in the hand, two in the bush type stuff. You know what I'm saying right now? and then the other is like, oh no, this is going to be very expensive. How much can I possibly spend on this next book that's coming up? There's a quite
How much can I get on my home equity loan?
Yeah, I'm taking a second mortgage for this particular book. And the auction, there's still some really big books on the table, like Superman #1 and 9.0 that's going to auction off this month. So let's get started. I want to talk a little bit about the Mark Spears blind bags. It's been about, I don't know, maybe 2 years now. Whenever Red Band came out, even though you knew what you were getting, Red Band's a little bit different. You knew what you were getting. The difference was on the inside of the book. It was more graphic. That's good. I mean, I like that this book is actually different. It's like an alternate ending to a film. You know what I'm saying? And also the cover is really bad. So,
like scary bad.
Yeah. The cover is unacceptable in most norms.
Explicit.
I don't even know like if it's really unacceptable, but it's just not normal to have a decapitated person.
Unless you were a book in the 50s.
Oh, it's absolutely normal if you're talking about pre-code horror.
Right. Well, the Congress has something to say about that, so I don't know. Kind of changed the way things were. But I want to talk a little bit about the blind bags. I know a lot of people have been chasing covers, and they're really excited about it. There's a lot of enthusiasm about it. God knows that they've sold a whole lot of comic books at $5 each. One of the things, and I'm talking specifically about Mark Spears and what's going on with them. One of the things that's interesting to me is I always like to know what I'm buying. The fact that you don't know which cover it is, it's almost like they've taken the ratio variant factor out of the purchase. So you don't know which ratio. Are you getting a 1 in 10 cover, a 1 in 100 cover? You don't know. And that really gives the buyer the chance of getting a cover that might cost them. Let's just assume that everything would cost ratio. So if it's a 1 in 100, people might try to sell it for $100 if they got one. A lot of times comic book stores will have to figure out ways to sell those to their customers. And One of the ways they do it, they just make the price higher. And the first person that wants to spend that pays that amount. But now they're taking it out and creating another layer. So the first layer is you got to buy all of these books. And I've seen there's tons of videos out there. I bought 50 and the guy's cutting them open. Got 9 of the same covers. I talked to a friend of mine, an acquaintance that does some pressing and stuff. And he said, yeah, I bought 100 of them. And every one of them's damaged. It has a seam where the seam was on the book. They'd all need a press. None of them are like out of the bag 9/8. I watched an unboxing of a guy doing a bunch of them, and they didn't seem damaged to me, but he didn't do close-ups on them. I'm of a vintage comic sensibility that I like to know the grade of the book I'm buying. I like to know which book I'm buying. It's a whole different gig when you're buying something that's a mystery. When I came back to the hobby, and I'll bounce this over to Danny and Rachel too.
Yeah, I have something to say.
Yeah, I'll let them shout out about it. But when I got back into the hobby on YouTube, there was all these people that were doing these blind boxes, right? Here's a box of books. We're going to send it to you. $800, $1,200. It's blind, keys, big boy books, blah, blah. And man, I knew right away that was a scam. It's like, I don't know if they were intentionally trying to scam people, but when you buy a lot of comics, you're going to get comic books that are hard to sell and comic books that are not. And one way of doing that is I'm going to stuff some of these hard to sell books in there to fill up that number and give you some that are easy to sell. But I don't think that anytime I heard someone saying what the retail price of a book was, it was wrong. They're usually lower. I just don't like buying that way, but I think it's a different game. It really is for the person that wants to play the numbers on the street corner. Like, I'll put $3 on 362. I hope my number comes in, because and a lot of times people can get frustrated. I've bought a few blind boxes. I bought a lot. I've tried all this stuff. I bought a few that I liked from Torpedo Comics that I got really good books. I got a Wolverine 88. I was able to press it, get a 9/8. It definitely exceeded the value of the box. So I was lucky and got some good books from people who know how to grade and put some pretty decent stuff in there. They had a big selection of stuff. But in general, I try to stay away from it, which means I don't sell stuff like that to my customers. We grade everything. We let you know what the grade is. We're really strict about it. It's a transparency thing. I'll let Rachel talk, and then Danny can chime in.
Well, the thing that immediately comes to mind for me as like a younger person is like Pokemon cards. I feel like the Mark Spears blind bags is like their gimmick to try and get people that buy Pokemon packs to try and get that special card. I don't know if you know anything about
Pokemon's
Pokemon
on
cards.
fire right now.
I mean, they have been forever.
I know, but they have a kiosk at my grocery store. And there's some old men, dude. I don't know if I've told you this, Danny. I walk in there at like 11 o'clock at night. I have a grocery store in walking distance of my house. I walked in there at 11 o'clock. Some guy is bent over going through the Hot Wheels. He's like in his 40s. He's digging, looking for like a variant or however you describe that in the world of Hot Wheels. And then there's a kiosk that sells Pokemon box sets. Every time they fill it, people come in and buy it out.
And it's resellers.
They're just putting a credit card in, pushing a button, and buying them out.
But I feel like it's the same people that are wanting to buy the Pokemon card packs are the same people that are buying a blind bag for a comic book. And like the same people that buy like blind boxes at like, kitschy toy stores.
Well, like that comment said, it's gambling. I really do believe it's gambling. But I also think that there's people that may not be able to afford the premium price of if it's already been vetted out which card is right. Maybe someone got it graded, and now you're paying the utmost premium for the one card. Maybe you can't afford that, so you're trying to take a shot to see if you can get one cheap, $5, $10, whatever it is. What are your thoughts on this, Danny?
Oh boy. So first of all, I've done a couple of these. Like I did the Comic Tom subscription thing for like a couple of months.
I did it for a year. Yeah.
One of your comments about
just one point about Comic Tom. At least with Comic Tom, he had exclusive content and he showed you what it was.
Now, yeah, but like you you pay $35 or whatever
Yeah.
it is. You get a little box in the mail, and it might have like 7, 8 books, whatever. And
Yeah.
some of it was vintage. Some of it was, when I say vintage, I mean like 80s, 90s stuff. Some of it was newer. I always got the impression somebody bought a big collection and they were just blowing out all of the common issues, or so with his stuff, it wasn't really gambling because he never promised you that you'd get like something worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. I mean, he just
It
sold it
wasn't
on.
clear if you were going to get the Virgin cover or the one. I
Right.
mean, he did.
That
There was a bit of a gamble to it.
Yeah, but that was it. Like, whereas like Torpedo and Bry had these mystery boxes where it was like $250, but he went out and bought like low grade, big time Marvel keys, like a Avengers
books.
one or a Spider-Man one in low grade.
Decent copies as
And
well. Decent copies.
And he had, like, he was only going to sell say 250 boxes, and they were going to be $250 a piece, and you had a chance of winning one of these like 6 big books that would have made it totally worthwhile, right? So that is definitely gambling, okay? Like, because you're not buying this because you want the Bry's exclusive, because he had those in there too. So like, I bought one of those $250 boxes, and it came with a couple of Bry's exclusives that were already graded, and I couldn't even sell those for grading fees. Like, when I got them, I was like, oh, I don't really want these.
Yeah.
I tried to sell them at either a convention or online, and I couldn't even get the cost of a slab.
But you're not a reseller, and that's not.
No, I was gambling. I mean, I'm going to call it for what it was. I was gambling. I was trying to win, his whatever one of his big prizes.
Taking a shot.
Yeah, and Torpedo likewise. Whenever they tell you exactly what you could get, and this is how many we're going to sell, that's a lottery. Okay, let's just call that for what it is. It's a lottery system, and you're trying to win one of the big prizes. And so I always was afraid, though, that like these guys are like, they know exactly which box the good stuff is in, and they're not going to just send that to anybody. But I'm skeptical, right?
Well, it's interesting too, because I think that on one side you have comics resellers doing that, and then the comic retailers jumped on board and said, no, we want some of that action. And now when you have a book like this last issue of Monsters, there's no way they would have sold that many.
Well,
no way. It's a marketing ploy. It really is designed to sell more copies than it normally would, through the intrigue of what can I possibly get as a special one.
Rachel's 100% right. In fact, while you guys were talking, that's exactly what I thought. It was Pokemon cards, and that you're not buying this book because you want just a copy of that book. You're buying these blind bags because you're hoping to get one of the rare editions. And so I went to a convention once, a card show here in Vegas. It was a card and comics show, and I talked to a Pokemon reseller, and I didn't understand the sophistication of these guys. They have these scales that are like so fine, and they know that if a pack contains like a certain card, it's going to weigh a certain amount.
Yeah.
And what they do is they open the boxes, they weigh all the card packs, and the ones that strike the weight of what the special card would have if it was in it, they pull those aside. They sell you all the other packs, and you're thinking that you have a shot of winning whatever the big card is, but in reality, they've pulled all those packs aside.
Or
because
they
they've
just
weighed
charge
them all
more
out.
for the heavy packs. That's typically what it is. They charge more for
I don't do
those.
cards, and I was at Richard's booth from Bedrock Comics, and a kid walked up, and he had a card. I don't even know what it was, but he wanted $14,000 for it. He was like 13 years old.
It was a Pokemon card.
And Richard was negotiating with him. I came back a half hour later, and he ended up doing a deal with him. Kid had a $14,000 card.
Yeah, I don't even think that's the most valuable Pokemon card. I think there's
I think it was grade related. It wasn't super high grade, 8.0 or whatever it was. So,
but Nathan collects those. So I'm like, I know a little bit about.
Nowadays, what is an average comic book print run? 20,000, 10,000, 30,000. So like, if you want to sell 100,000, then you have to do something to make people want to buy multiple copies, because we don't have 100,000 people out buying those books. So now you're doing something to make people want to have multiple copies, and that's what this is all about.
Well, you and I were talking a little bit earlier today about having this little chat today, and we talked about McFarlane. You had brought up Spider-Man 1, the Platinum Edition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of all of them, in the time-tested theory of it all, that particular book is still hot because there's less copies of it than everything else,
Wait, I want to stop you for a second, because Maurice is saying, I think, is a really big point here.
Yeah, you have
This
to
is
trust
my
the person
biggest
you're buying from.
problem. It's my biggest problem with auction houses, and my biggest problem with these kind of games. They're completely unregulated. There's no independent third party involved. Like, I would feel much better about this gambling if, say, whoever's going to do it, Bry, anybody, if they packaged up 500 books, sent them to a third party. They were all identical packages that you could not delineate one from the other. You sent your money to Bry, and he let the third party know to send you a package, and then Bry had no control over who got what. Like, then I would be like, oh, we have a real shot. But I'm like this real skeptical person, thinking nobody's going to send me, their Spider-Man #1, because they don't have to.
Yeah, I think Bry did get a third party involved. But even when you do, I really do. I respect Bry. I think that Bry has good retail prices.
I'm not picking on him. I shouldn't even really use his
I'm
name.
tagging on what you said, because you and I have talked about this a lot over the years. There's so many different ways to really scam that system that it's hard to trust even the most reliable seller, because there's ways it can be skewed. And even if you do everything right, you still might get accused of that, even though you haven't done anything wrong. So, to the point of, like, it'd be great if there was an agency or some kind of oversight or somebody, looking at these types of raffles, because that's what they are. In the gaming industry, there's some and I come from the gaming industry, the casino gambling industry. There's very strict regulations when it comes to jackpots of 300 times or more of the original wager. And IRS is informed. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. And here we could be talking about a $10,000, a $10,000 book for a $200 buy-in, whatever that is. So anyway, I think it's difficult to do anything blind in a way that doesn't leave people just not trusting the process.
Well, but along the lines of price manipulation, my other issue, which we didn't really touch on, I'm going to add into the conversation, is auction houses. Like, when I'm bidding on a comic book through any of the major auction houses, how do I know that there's nobody behind the scenes pushing the price up that I'm bidding against?
Heritage got in trouble for something like
Not
that?
Heritage.
Or what was it?
Well,
starts with a W.
It doesn't matter, because none of the big ones that we're all familiar with, that I'm aware of, disallow or have ever publicly stated what their internal controls are to keep those things from happening. And as a person who works, in a financial background and has to do audits and assessments, it's what I think of. It's like, who am I bidding against? Am I bidding against an employee, or who knows exactly what my high bid is, or am I bidding against other bidders? And I don't know. And like, it doesn't stop me from going out and bidding on these books, but I'm always skeptical that I'm getting them at a fair price versus a price that feels artificially inflated.
I think there's risk with all this stuff.
Well, and
eBay, I have a feeling, other than shill bidders, like, people getting their friends to bid against other people, eBay, I feel, is probably pretty fair. So like you're pretty much going to get it whatever the high bid is versus another person. Like I said, other than shill bidding, and eBay has algorithms to go out and like try to detect shill bidding when it happens. But Comic Connect, Comic Link, Heritage, My Comic Shop, I can go on and on. It's like all these places that have auctions. I've never seen anybody publicly state what is their position on these and how do they protect their customers' interests in that matter.
you were saying about monsters?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, we don't even know how much those are gonna be worth. Like, people are buying hundreds of them. Like, we did a video on like just the ones that have recently come out, and there's only a handful of the thousands of variants that are even worth anything.
Mm-hmm.
And as we continue to add more and more of those covers to the market, it's just gonna be more inflated, and they're gonna just not be as expensive or as desirable, in my opinion.
I think that Mark Spears is onto something with his covers, and he's really resonating with people. So I was looking at like some other books. Absolute Batman #1's holding its own. It's got legs. I mean, it's been out for over a year. People are still paying, a decent price, which is more than cover price. I mean, really, with new books, if people are so interested in them that they want to pay more than cover price for them within the first year, that hasn't changed, has it, Danny?
I don't really think that. I don't really think that's comic collecting. I think that's something different. It's.
Well, let me give you an example. When Hulk 340 came out, you didn't get a copy right away.
No, I didn't get a copy right away because I wasn't buying and reading Hulk. But then after the cover came out and I saw it and it sold out, I wanted a copy, and I ended up, finding one and probably paid like $5 for it after it had just come out for whatever, 75 cents.
So all things equal, that would be the equivalent of somebody right now going out and paying $25 for a book that was $5.
True, but this is buying a book because you love the cover, right? This isn't like buying.
Most people buy these.
I'm just saying, like Hulk 340 is a great example of that. Like it's become a modern classic, and the people, lots of people own a copy because they like that, not because they collect Hulk. Whereas like trying to find a 1 in 100 in a blacked out bag, that is not the same thing, because you don't really care what the cover is. You're hoping to get the rare edition so you can flip it and make. Hopefully, you didn't have to buy 100 copies to get the 1 in 100. Steven, Steven made a comment too about. Steven made a comment about the shill bidders, I think, or somebody made a comment about shill bidders. Like, as long as you set your price in advance.
Oh yeah,
Well, the thing is if I go bid, say $1,000 on a book, and I have $1,000 bid in, and it's sitting at 500, I'd love to win it at 500. But if somebody behind the scenes knows I have a bid in for 1,000, they can push it up to 950. And now all of a sudden,
behind the software.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden, I paid $950 for a book that legitimately didn't have another bidder. It had an employee. And that's what I'm afraid happens. And I think it does happen. And I'm not accusing anybody. I don't know who does it and who doesn't, but the odds are that's happening somewhere in the comic verse.
Yeah, really good comments here. And just wrapping up the Hulk 340, that wasn't a variant. It was just an unusually popular cover. And Todd McFarlane, I think that was his first all-star, knock him out of the park cover.
Well, obviously it had legs because people still want it.
Well, that put people onto him, and then everything he did after that kind of resonated out from Hulk 340, because Hulk 340 to this day is a very expensive book in the world of Copper Age books. In the world,
what is a high grade copy of that worth?
If it's newsstand, I think it's over $1,000.
I had no idea.
9.8. It's an expensive book in 8.0. I mean, it's it's going to cost you $100 in 8.0, 150.
Expensive relative to whatever.
I don't even know.
I think we're about to talk about some expensive books in a minute that make that look cheap. But the fact of the matter is if you're spending $5 on a comic book or $5,000 on a comic book, it's because you want to.
I hope.
It's because you hope that you enjoy that purchase. You might be trying to sell that book for more later. That's a very risky endeavor, especially for the modern. But I wanted to say modern books are really hot right now. I think the low cost of entry has got people really just chasing after modern books a lot more.
Everything's a great investment until it isn't.
Got that right, Matt?
Hank.
It's a great Hank. It's a great investment until you try to sell it.
Until it's worth nothing.
I tried to sell that $5,000 comic book. I can't tell you how many times I buy collections.
What is Care Bear 7? Is that the anniversary
one that you
issue?
have, Uncle Danny?
Well, is that the anniversary issue, the 25th anniversary one?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I got a nice run of Care Bears. We
have
know
a nice
that.
copy of that.
You showed them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Bought them for my daughter, who was just born that same year, and I never gave them to her. I kept them.
They're yours.
Somebody's asking what your sphere of comics is. Why don't you grab one of those books you have on the wall behind you?
Oh, this is a favorite of mine right here. I like this series Tor from DC. I remember when you and I were kids, DC came out with Tor #1 in 1975 by Joe Kubert, and at the time, I didn't even know that it had been previously issued as a series in the 1950s before the Comics Code. So this is a comic I really like. It's a
That's
really
such
nice
a pretty
high-grade.
copy, man.
Oh, and it's got fantastic art. Joe Kubert's one of my favorite artists, and it's got fantastic like full page spreads with dinosaurs and stuff in it. So I like
You
stuff
used to
like
have a
this.
raw copy of that as well, yeah?
I did, yeah. I had like a fine copy, and this came out of that collection in Canada that you know about, and bunch of original owner high grade books, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to get that. But I collect
Show us one
my
more. Show us one more from that wall.
oh well, people don't know me as a Marvel collector, so I thought I would just have this one out there just to show that yeah, I do buy Marvels. Like
That old thing.
I have X-Men 94 through 300 all in 94, 96 type grades.
That's a really pretty copy.
Yeah, it is. And I don't I don't have a giant size one, which is kind of funny, but I don't feel like spending the kind of money for a giant size one that it would take to get a 94 or 96. It's just I have better things to do with that kind of money, so I just don't have one. And maybe someday I'll sell something or I'll trade somebody for it, but out here well, I have a couple other books that I picked out here, but I think we're going to talk about some stuff in a second. So let's talk real quick about variants because you were bringing it up, and we had a conversation earlier, and I want to. How many variants really pop, and where they like take off and become super valuable, and yet stay valuable versus like ones that come out today and tomorrow nobody cares. I remember when I was buying new comics, and I quit about 6 years ago. When I was buying new comics, I'd go in and I was buying that Star Wars series that Marvel started in 2014 or 15. And every issue had variants, and I was trying to buy them. And the comic shop I was going to was selling like the variants for like double or triple the cover price. And after a while, I just got tired of like having to buy two. Oh, I bought a regular one, and I bought a variant. I just got tired of it. And I'm not aware that any of those Star Wars variant covers now are worth anything, except maybe that one Darth Vader issue with Dr. Aphra. I think that had a variant, and that might be worth a little bit. But like, there's just not that many variants that have staying power. And so I brought this one because I thought this is a good example of one. This is a variant that has staying power. Now it's older; it's like 20 years old already. But this Adam
A little
Hughes
closer to the screen. People might and say exactly what it is because people might not be familiar, but they might go this way.
Yeah, so this is
a big shine on it. There you go.
I know.
You'll be able to see what he's looking at.
So this is a Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes 23. I was gonna go find. I have the regular copy of this, the non-variant. I was gonna get it to show people the side by side, but I just didn't have time to grab it. But like, this is a book that like when it came out, it jumped up in price right away. It's just a really great Adam Hughes cover, and it never went down in price. And I remember, Dave, there was a time when this was like $50, and then it was $100, and then it was $300. And I kept thinking people are going to lose interest, and they never did. And I won't even tell you what I paid for this copy because it was a lot more than that. And I finally wanted a copy and saw someone selling one for below the current market value. So I bought it. But like, this is an example of a variant that I think has staying power. And I think we talked about a couple others. We like Ultimate Fallout 4's variant, it still has staying power. There's that issue of Spider-Man where Mary Jane is Venomized. That's a great cover, and it's got staying power. But quite honestly, like, there's just not that many variants that are worth. And that's why you brought up the Platinum Spider-Man #1. That one still, I think, goes for a bit of money because of just so few copies. But there's just not that many variants that, like, once they're a year old, people are still tracking them down and paying. $100 for a 1 in 100 or 50 for a 1 in 50.
Right. I totally agree. I think that people should buy what they really like, but when it comes to those, if you buy them all, then you're going to be sorely disappointed when you go to sell them. And
Well,
when
and it's
interest,
like this whole like 1 in 10s or $10, 1 in 25. That, who cares? I mean, that's a bad way to price things. It should be more like, what are people willing to pay for? I mean, obviously they're willing to pay it if they buy it, but is it going to hold up? Because like some of those 1 in 25s you see them on eBay now and they're selling for $5.
oh yeah,
I'd say most ratio variants are
I've sold 1 in 1,000s for $10. I mean, dude, it really depends on if there's any interest in that particular title in that book anymore. And I've never seen a group of buyers more fickle than comic buyers. There's some cognoscente in the sky that tells everybody what's cool on the very same day, and they see this huge spike in sales. And the next day, when other people decide that, oh, I want to buy one, the prices have tripled, and now no one's buying. And then slowly people start coming down until they're nothing because no one's interested anymore, because the cognoscente that spoke last week is now saying to jump on Absolute Batman or Absolute this. And it's like, it's so interesting how these things happen. It's almost like we're being had. We're certainly the customer. I mean, somebody's selling to us to buy things and pay more than we did yesterday. And that's why I like to stick with vintage comics personally.
Well, and someone had said in the chat that we want the younger generation to buy comic books, and I agree with that, but it's like throwing out thousands of one issue is not the answer to like have
people. Well, I want people to buy comics because they want to read them and gain some kind of like, they want to have some kind of an emotional connection to the book because they like the story or they like the characters, because people who buy for that reason are likely to stay in the hobby a long time. If you're only in it to flip, you're probably going to get burnt out at some point and leave the hobby, and that's not good for the hobby long term.
I don't even know if reading is like the number one priority for a lot of comic book buyers.
What was the last book that you saw that you wanted? I gave it to you.
Oh, it was Cult of the Lamb, which is a video game that I play on the Switch. They had a comic book, and we found it in the collection that you just bought, and I was like, oh my god, I played this. It's probably worth $2. Like, it's probably not worth anything.
That's comic collecting.
Yeah.
And if she reads it or not, to me, it's a nostalgic thing, right? But to a lot of people, it might be, I like to read, so I want to read the next story. And there's a lot of new readers. Things like Rick and Morty #1, or
someone was talking about that in the chat
or
earlier.
Adventure Time #1. Those things are popular. And I'll tell you what's really popular is what is it called? Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, well, he passed away too, so
it's still there's stuff out there no one really talks about, but even Usagi Yojimbo, I never have a problem selling the older issues
like
of that. Akira, super popular with incredible art. There's all kinds of stuff that's just not talked about, but there's a lot of fandom around either the stories or the art, or no, they're not hot, but we never have a problem selling them, and they don't sell for nothing. I mean, if they're high grade, they actually fetch a price.
I think so. If you were a comic collector in the 1970s and even 80s, I think you were collecting kind of old school comic collecting, right? You were buying X-Men, you were buying Spider-Man or whatever. You were reading them. You were collecting back issues. The variant thing has kind of split collecting off into kind of like there's different ways to collect comics, and
hey, I have a copy of Marvel #7. Which cover?
Well, I think variants are okay, but I think having like 40 variants of one issue is crazy. That's too many. There's some that have hundreds. Like maybe just
Brooklyn, if your point is if Brooklyn's point is correct, then the comic market is probably on its way out anyways, because
if Marvel's only relying on its movies, which like I don't think
if the only way to sell comics is to like have gimmicks like multiple covers and such like that, then the hobby is going to kind of die out not the hobby. I think the buying of new comics will eventually stop if that's what people are buying them for.
It's been going on for years though.
Well, and like there's people will be
print runs are so small though now, Dave. pick up a 60s comic and go to that page in there that tells you the circulation report that they had to publish once a year, and you see like Superboy was average, monthly sales was 500,000 copies. Nowadays, a comic is considered a success if there's 30,000 copies printed.
Not when you're selling blind bags, bro. And don't forget, Todd McFarlane did sell 350,000 comics of one of his books with all these variants.
I think Spawn number 1 sold it. I mean, there have been exceptions.
Yeah, there was one
There's
cover.
been yeah, well, in like what was it, the X-Men 1 that had 4 covers? I mean, wasn't that like 7 million copies or something like that?
Yeah, I agree with Don.
I think the variant thing is
okay. Let's say there's one variant. You know what sucks though? Like, I've used this analogy before. Iron Man number 1, 1968, right? What an incredible cover that is. It's a great book to own. No matter how you collect, if low grade, mid grade, high grade, however you collect, slabbed, raw, it's a great book to own. Can you imagine if there was 2 covers, and you're going to say one of them suck and the other one doesn't? Because I think that Ultimate Batman is not. I said Ultimate. Absolute Batman number 1, the cover where he's like got his cape and it's like pointed at the bottom. He's like crossing his arms. I don't like that cover, but it's holding its own. There are better covers. When you have a limited edition cover, that's the only cover people want. It takes the focus off the book. It does kind of consolidate where the money in that book goes. It becomes really a game of who you know and how you get a copy of that book and how much you're willing to pay.
Oh, look who it is. Hi, Joey.
Hey, Joey. What's going on, brother?
Okay. FOMO exclusive. Some can find a major.
You know what gives me FOMO nowadays? Not like the new issue of something that does not get. What gives me FOMO is if I'm missing a book and all of a sudden I hear there's movie hype about a character, like the first Brainiac, for instance. I'm still looking for an Action 242 to buy someday, and if James Gunn announces that Brainiac's going to be in the next Superman movie, I'm just like, oh my god, like I got to get a copy now. But I always tend to wait sometimes on the big books until they've gotten so expensive. But that's what gives me FOMO, is when there's something I've been wanting and all of a sudden there's a lot of hype around it.
Because it's going to be more expensive for that period of time, at least, not for
for years. Like the first Crypto is a good example. It's like the Adventure 210 kind of went up quite a bit after everybody knew it was going to be in the Superman movie, Crypto, and it hasn't really. The book is so scarce that it hasn't really dropped in price.
It was pretty popular before that.
It's always been a popular book.
Frazetta's always worth it.
Yeah, Frazetta writes, and there's artists. I mean, that's a whole different conversation. Like, more people are buying McFarlane right now because he's doing a signing and they want to get his autograph. It doesn't mean that, the books will probably go down after the signing, but not by a lot because he's really popular. And maybe there's not enough good copies to go around for people. We never have a problem selling Todd McFarlane if they're priced right, We're going to move on to the auction, though. So Danny's been watching this auction for a month because he collects ECs. I'll let you speak to it. Blow it up, Dan.
Oh yeah. So it's funny. I watched a video recently. I forget who it was. It was one of the regular YouTubers had a video about, is the market, still going down, or price. And it's really funny that there's a lot of talk about comic prices, going down and the market's crashing, but like there's a whole segment of the comic market that is not doing that at all. And like anybody who stays up on the heritage auctions and watches those premium auctions they have, you see books setting record prices like every time they have one of those auctions. And they recently had an EC specific auction. There was 137 items in there. 2 of them were not comic books. And then I want to say over 120 Gaines file copies, which was the largest grouping of Gaines books that I've ever seen in one place. And Dave, I collect the EC science fiction books. And so I was like waiting for this auction to come live for a long time. And I sat last night for the 90 minutes that auction lasted, and I was just blown away. I think somebody should do an analysis, and I might be the person to have to do it. Break out a spreadsheet and go on GPA. I think almost every item on there broke a previous sales record for those specific books. I saw one or two books that didn't, because there had been some big sales recently, but like I saw books that had sold last 5 or 6 years ago for $1,500 sell for 10,000, and I was so it's so
like which books?
demoralizing. Huh?
Name some books that
Weird science, weird fantasy, not even first issues. I saw some weird fantasies that were not number one in 9.6 go for more money than the weird fantasy one in 9.6.
Do you have any handy next to you?
Oh, I have a couple of ECs next to me, but these are not, I mean, obviously the books from last night, you know, but these kind of books.
Yeah, because people might not even know what you're talking about. That's beautiful, dude.
Yeah, I grabbed a couple of raw ECs here just to show people.
That's just a great Wally Wood cover, classic. So pretty.
I would say it could be one of his very best. Personally, it's also the very last EC comic book. I don't know if you knew
wasn't
this.
Didn't he swipe for Zeta from another cover?
Oh, there was this whole, they were swiping each other back and forth like a friendly swiping. There's multiple comics that have a cover similar to this. There's a Famous Funnies by Frazetta, but then there's a Strange Worlds by Wood. So like Wood did it first, then Frazetta did it, then Wood did it again. But like this is a Gaines file copy. It's a raw one. I got it from a mutual friend of ours. Our mutual friend Ken, at one time, I remember, forget, he wanted to get all 12 Gaines of these, and so he was buying whenever he saw one come up for sale, he was buying it, but gave up on that. This is another from the same series, Incredible Science Fiction. So I actually completed this run last night.
Can you do a little closer? That's a Jack Davis cover, right?
It's a Jack Davis cover.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite Jack Davis covers.
Yeah, cover your face with it, Uncle Danny, because it's focusing on your face. Yeah, there you go.
That's one of my favorite Jack Davis. Yeah, push it towards the top. Yeah, perfect.
The YouTube
star.
I
know. Yeah, I know. This book, it is so sick, guys. It really is. Now, one of the things, that's a great book. One of the things about Weird Science, I think the trade dress from that, ever since the movie, has just become iconic for 50s science fiction. That's such a pretty book, man.
This is not a Gaines file copy. It's just a nice copy that I bought and took out of the slab because I actually wanted to just read it. Even though I've got reprints of it, I still like being able to thumb through some of these books. And so this has a fantastic Frazetta story in it, and one of the best Wood covers. It has the whole story called 50 Girls 50, which is fantastic. Just a great story. But like, I love these books, and I was hoping to, as I told you, I was hoping to win like maybe 4 or 5 of these books, but I could not get myself to spend, say, $13,000 on something I was hoping to get for 4 or 5. And it's like,
so the Mads broke some records last night. The Mad.
Oh my God, I think Mad #2. Now, you know, if you don't follow these things, you might say, well, that doesn't sound too bad. And Mad 2 and 9.8 sold for over 20,000. And you might say, well, it's a 9.8. Well, these books had been selling for just a few thousand up till a few years ago. Now, what's happened is people understand the actual, like, whether it's the Gaines file copy, like what do you call it? You know, the certificate, you know, people, whether it's
right.
This is a certificate from a Gaines file copy. Fancy. Like there's let's
talk about, Danny, real quick, for someone who's not familiar with Gaines file, how many file copies exist of each book, and which books did not have file copies?
There's only a few comics that didn't
explain,
have
if you don't mind, what a file copy even is.
So a file copy is, so Bill Gaines, the publisher of EC, as every book was being published, he would take about a dozen. It was between 10 and 12, but mostly 12 copies, and bring them back to his apartment, set them aside. He wrapped them up in brown paper, stuck them in a box, and they went into a closet in his apartment. And he did that for every single comic book from the point when he became the publisher. Yeah, it is Aragoni's art on the top of that. And so in it had to be either early 90s or late 80s, they busted those out at his apartment with Russ Cochran and Bob Overstreet, and they didn't grade them like near mint and stuff. They stacked them up and said, "This is the best copy," and this
now
is
hold on. Are you saying they went to his apartment and
yeah.
what do you have him in a closet? You think, or
Yeah, the story is he had them in a
file.
closet. Yeah, he had a closet, and he had all these boxes in a closet, and they busted them out. And so at the time they were probably
You're in jail.
over like 35 years old, and they busted them out. They ranked each book from one from first to last. And so like even this one here, this Incredible Science Fiction's copy number 8, but when it was graded by CGC, it was a 9.6. So imagine you can. I have some that are like Gaines file copy 1 of, and it's like it doesn't matter what these guys ranked them at. They're all super high grade, unread, basically untouched, sat in a closet. And when they sold for between $200 and $400 a piece in ads through like the Comic Buyer's Guide and through other stuff. And
that was a lot back then.
It was a lot. And so the people who bought, like there were people who bought whole runs. Like I want the whole run of Weird Fantasy, and he bought the whole run in Gaines file copies and paid like $200 a piece for them. And
what
stuff.
A fool!
Well, the thing is, Dave, for a long time those prices really didn't go up because it felt like the market was flooded. So like you had 12 copies of everything that was EC and super high grade. And what I've tried to tell people when we have these conversations about Gaines file copies is remove them from the census, and what's left? Not a lot of high grade copies.
Not at all.
So people have come, EC fans have come to love these Gaines file copies. And even though there are some high grade copies that are not Gaines, the Gaines books always are very popular. And so I was hoping to win. I won 2 books last night. I won the last issue I needed to complete the Incredible Science Fiction run, and I won a copy of Valor, which is it's not one of their more popular titles, but it has a Wally Wood cover, and I really like Wally Wood.
Post Comic Code, yeah. The Valor series, VALR.
But I guess the point is why you wanted to talk about this is like there are parts of the comic hobby where prices are not going down. It's like blue chip is blue chip, right? And no matter what your hobby is, you can collect coins, you can collect paper money, you can collect Pokemon cards. There's blue chip. And let me tell you something, those things don't tend to go down. It's the masses. It's the common stuff that's struggling in our hobby right now. But like there's plenty of stuff out there. So like if you're afraid about buying stuff because the market's falling, I would say maybe refocus your energies on stuff that might be more expensive. Don't buy as many books, but save up and buy a key that you really like, because blue chip stuff has not really been going down.
I want to talk about this because there's more to what you just said than you might have even, you might be joking, Hank, but look, who was it? What artist was that made all the prints? He had made prints late in his career. It was Picasso. Picasso did a bunch of prints, maybe runs of 800 or whatever, and he'd sign them, right? Sometimes it was auto pen, but sometimes he signed them. They're very expensive. At the time, they weren't, but as time has gone on, they're expensive because they're actual Picasso. There's other artists, and really, when I look at comic books, I think of it as both a popular culture item, not a collectible, and also a collectible. And I really do think that when you're talking about something of the rarity of the Gaines file copies, because they're not the only file copies of any comic from any publisher, but I would venture to say they're the most popular, the most collected file copies, and the most expensive file copies.
Well, I would have to say that the Church collection is.
Those aren't file copies though, because he bought them. He bought them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
He bought them from the corner store. I mean, he had
to go file copies. So I'd have to agree with you that Gaines holding back right from the publisher a dozen of every one of his books. They're file copies, whereas like the Church collection was he bought one of every comic and just neatly stacked it away.
And he was kind of coming out of a period of time where his comic books weren't selling, when they were under the religious stories and the stuff his dad did. So it's not like he knew that one day these are going to be valuable. He was just keeping a very nice portion, and he didn't do the annuals, right? There's no file copies for the annuals. Is that right?
No, there's no file copies for the annual. There's a few books where there were no file copies. But the thing about the EC is like
And can't you tell by the grades of the annuals and how few copies are out there?
Yeah, my two science fiction annuals, I got a 7.5 and an 8.0 of the
Are they
weird
square
science
bound?
fantasy.
To explain to Rachel how big these books are and what he would do to make them.
Well, they're what they are. So they're called remaindered copies, Rachel. So they would get books shipped back to them that the newsstands didn't sell,
I knew
and
this.
so
Okay.
he would bundle 4 comic books together, take the covers off, bundle 4 together, put a new cover on them, and sell them for 25 cents instead of the 40 cents it would have taken to buy those 4 issues individually. And what's really crazy about the Gaines annuals is every one of them has different contents.
That's the crazy part. They're all like a
like the same issue
Hey,
number.
we went full
fun.
circle. It's a blind bag.
Well, no, but it wasn't, because you could open it up but it's so fun to, like, because now CGC even denotes on the label what are the contents. They used to not do that, and they're like Weird Science Fantasy Annual #1. There are some of them that have copies of Weird Science #1 and Weird Fantasy #1, both in the same book.
But they're like, 25 cents. Which
yeah,
is
but what's nuts is like you're basically getting a Weird Science 1, and it's the original one. It's not like it wasn't reprinted. It was just had the cover taken off and stuck back in a new book. And it's
so 8 staples and glue, right? Did they leave the staples in there?
Dave, my 2 annuals are graded and I haven't popped them out, so I couldn't.
Come on, crack one live on camera. Just twist it.
I love
the Joey Campos method. He showed me. He goes, "Look, Dave," and he just took one to his chest and cracked it. I'm like, "That's brilliant." Come on, man, for the people.
Some of these comments are great. Like somebody's talking about, sell me all your Neil Adams comics right now. I consider Bronze Age Neil Adams high grade to be blue chip, and like I don't like, if somebody was selling high grade Tomahawks with Neil Adams covers, I would be all over those. You don't see them because the covers are so fantastic, and like Tomahawk 116 has just such an amazing cover. Like I think some of his best covers were not even the superhero stuff. It was the non-superhero stuff that Neil Adams doing. But like, he's right. There's so many great things out there that you can buy. Like if you're feeling burnt by the comic book market, you bought things, they went down, or you speculated and it didn't go up, then maybe just refocus onto buying blue chip comics, saving your money, buy fewer comics, but buy ones that have like real staying power. And I think you'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
Truth. Oh, I want to go back up to this because we didn't say anything about it. That Mark Spears has a book coming up with Todd McFarlane for Spawn.
Spawn 77.
No, but like I said, not to be negative, but these are gimmicks. These are sales gimmicks that that the publishers are doing. And I think the best comic books are the ones that just come out in the normal run of things. Like, I'll give you an example. When Green Lantern, Green Arrow came out and Neil Adams took over the art, it was like a phase it was going through. You look back on those books and they are like, okay, did they sell out? I mean, were they popular at the time? There's no variance of them. When there's all this bluster in advance, I mean, you would get a month's notice on comic books. The previous month, they would put an ad and do a teaser about what's coming out next month, right?
I love house ads.
Yeah, so you got these house ads, and that would be the only marketing you ever see. Next thing you know, you go out and there's this just smashing Spider-Man cover, or they changed the story arc, and now they're into this story that no one knew at the time would be a famous storyline. It was just a different era, so that's why I think when it comes to vintage comics, there's a lot more passion about it. Not that I think that new comic people aren't passionate. I know they are. They love collecting new books. I just think that the comic companies have a lot more power to mess with your head now and make you feel FOMO. And other comic, I think they would have done that in the 60s and 70s if they knew better. They definitely did
One
it
of,
in the 50s. In the
one
50s,
of
they
your
knew
viewers,
sex and death sells, and they were putting that on the cover
one of,
every
one of
day.
your viewers just stated that if you buy what you like, you'll never go wrong, and I
That's
totally
right.
agree with that. Like everything I collect is stuff that I am passionate about. Like there's something about it that I like. I'm not buying it to go up in value. I might focus on high grade because I just like the way high grade comics look like, but everything I buy is something I like. I'm not chasing. If I was chasing stuff because it was popular, I'd probably have like a full run of Spider-Man and other things that everybody else is collecting. But I remember, Dave, so the house ads, I had a low grade copy of Brave and the Bold 15 I bought as a kid. And I love that book. It's got a really awesome shiny night, there's a Silent Night cover on it. There's a house ad in there of other DC books that have Superman in it for that month. And I have tracked down 3 of the 4 comics in that ad just because I love that ad. So there's like a World's Finest 91 cover. There's a Superman 117 cover in there. And there's an action that I'm missing. But like, I've actually I was like 11 or 12 years old when I got this book. And so like, there was no internet. This was how I saw what other comics were out there, and it made me like look for those books by just seeing those house ads.
Which house ad do you remember the most? I know you told me about the Super Whale. That was Superboy, right?
Oh, I'm a big DC. I'm a most of my collection's DC, so I love whenever I get a new book from a new time period and I open it up and look at it. I just love like some of these Golden Age books I've bought recently. Like I've bought some Rex the Wonder Dogs that are raw, and I love going through them and finding the house ads and seeing like all of the different stuff in there. There's Superboy 35's got a great full page house ad for Jimmy Olsen 1, for instance. Superboy
I guarantee
100.
you no one else in this stream knows that but you.
Tell us if you knew that.
Anyone else that knew that, just shout out.
Superboy 100 has a really nice, because it's an anniversary issue, they show you the 4 big Superman covers. So there's a full page in there. It's not an ad. It's just like it's part of their whole commemorating Superboy's 100th issue. Superman 1, Lois Lane 1, Jimmy Olsen 1, and it might be Action 1 or something like that. And it's like, well, I don't have Action in Superman #1, but like I've gone out and gotten the Jimmy Olsen 1 and this Lois Lane 1 and Superboy #1 because I love those books, and I love seeing those ads.
This point is kind of what we were talking about, that the art was so good on ASM 297 and 298. If you weren't on board, and you were buying them every time they came out at that point, weren't you?
Oh yeah.
Tell me if you remember that era.
No, I totally remember, and I don't remember like Todd McFarlane himself being a big deal at the time, but like I remember like getting it, and I liked 297. It's like, oh, this is cool. It hadn't really hit you yet, but about Spider-Man 300, you knew something special was happening. With the Venom and the classic cover that number 300 had, and I was kind of sad to see because I bought Spider-Man up to around 400 or so, and then I stopped. But like, what was his name? Mark Bagley. That I didn't care for that era of. I didn't care for that era. So like the stuff that succeeded the Todd McFarlane era, it kind of like was flat after Todd McFarlane. But I did so Todd McFarlane jumped off of ASM and went to Spider-Man #1, 2, and I bought all of those too. And I really liked them. I don't know that I've liked the period of Spider-Man any better than that since then, to be honest with you. The story's got, I don't know, and I guess there was some other stuff in the 80s. Like Web of Spider-Man had some good stuff with the Craven and stuff. But like Spider-Man, when there's too many monthly series and you had to read this issue and that issue and that issue to get the whole storyline, I started losing interest.
Were you reading Marvel Secret Wars? Were you buying that?
I bought Secret Wars off the stands. I don't have that set anymore, but I bought them right off the stand. Yeah,
So
I didn't care for the Larson. I didn't care for the
The North
Larson
Star.
era. I'm telling you, everything that happened after McFarlane left, it just
I like
and I
some of the covers and some of those are pretty cool.
yeah, but
You're not a
I
cover
don't know.
collector, yeah.
No, I mean I like a good cover as much as anybody else, but I was reading these books. Now, when Carnage came out, I did like that storyline. I thought that was kind of fun.
He wasn't a very nice guy. Hey, he took Venom and made him, just bad. Hey, before we wrap up, this is our last couple minutes. Any other questions that anyone hasn't had a chance to shout out?
No,
Lay
it
them on
just
us real quick.
Well, we
that
have
was a fast hour.
Yeah,
we said we had to leave at five.
we
Hey,
have to go. Danny's gonna go watch Predator
I'm
tonight,
I'm gonna go see the Predator movie tonight.
and I
I'm
want to go
looking
see
so
Predator,
forward
but I
to
haven't
that.
talked to my wife about it yet.
Oh yeah,
She might be
my wife
tired.
and daughter are here. They're excited.
I'm dying to see that movie. Anyone that's seen the Predator movie that came out in 2025, the animated movie, I think it's called The Killer of Killers. It was phenomenal. I watched it this week and I just couldn't believe how good it was. I love what Predator's done ever since Prey. Prey, this other movie that came out, and now I'm really looking forward to seeing this. I like him when he teams up or when he's fighting like normal people.
He doesn't really this new movie. It doesn't seem like he's the villain. It seems more like he's the one who's got problems and he needs to work some things out.
Well, the tent gets bigger when they say politics makes strange bedfellows. When you're both running the same direction away from something else, it makes a lot of sense that you're going to team up rather than try on your own. Yeah.
So Hank, without giving you a specific age, I'll tell you this: I've been collecting comics for 50 years.
Yep.
And no, I didn't buy them. I didn't come out of the womb and buy them, so there's a few extra years added there. Although Hank, I will tell you this: that I told my mom this. She could have the same month I was born. She could have stopped at the store on the way to the hospital and picked up an Amazing Fantasy 15, and that would have been a great birthday present for me.
Oh yeah, Mike asked a question earlier too. I'll pop that one up in a second.
And a lot of people think that greatest Frazetta comic covers, probably either something in the Famous Funnies line or the Weird Science Fantasy 29, or those are probably the ones that people think about the most.
Yeah, I think those are his most talked about.
Mike asked earlier what we thought about the Bongo comics.
I have to speak as a seller. They tend to sell really well. People like the issues that aren't common. If you have those in grade, they're not expensive. It might be a $10 or $15 book in really high grade raw. But I think there are people that just love Bart Simpson and they're going to buy that stuff.
And Futurama.
Yeah. And I think that there's this crossroad of pop culture fandom and comic books that when they cross, you just widen the audience, where all of a sudden you put one of those up and someone will say, I'm buying that for my daughter. I'm going to get somebody this for Christmas because I want to get them a comic book they would like.
Joey Joe, I read all of those Justice League books that came out in the late 80s, and I liked them a lot too. There's some really good art in there, and the stories were a lot of fun. First comic book I own and read, I don't know if I can remember specifically because I was reading comics at a really young age, but I do have a recollection of reading Superman-related titles, and that's probably why I collect so many of those things. I just loved them as a kid, even though they're silly and they don't really hold up as well as some of the Marvel books of the same time period. I really like them.
Yeah, some of our oldest pictures, me and Danny are reading comic books. We're like 5-6 years old. So
we have a picture of us at Christmas in the late 60s where we're both wearing. My mom gave us Halloween costumes for Christmas, and one of us is wearing a Spider-Man costume and the other one's wearing a Batman costume.
I wish we still had those.
I have the picture.
And we both had monkeys that had a perma banana in his hand and his mouth was like this. We both had these monkeys. I just wish I had that monkey and those Halloween costumes.
I think this is a good time to end it because if we're talking about monkeys, we're done talking about comic books.
It's over now.
Is there any more questions that we wanted to get to?
No more questions.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for checking it out. We'll put this so everyone can watch it after we're done. Enjoy the movie, Danny. Thanks everyone for participating. That was a lot of fun for us. So we really enjoyed listening to what you had to say.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.